cucumber flavored Lays, which are actually really nice.
Really? Cucumber
They're
doesn't really taste
refreshing.
of anything.
I know, it's just refreshing. It just tastes like a refreshing chip.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to BearTalks. Today we are joined by Khan of Steppe.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
And today we are talking about the beginnings of the Total War franchise, Shogun Total War. And to begin with, as always, we just want to know, Khan of Steppe, what was your first experience with Total War?
Yeah, so Bjorn, with me, it's a little bit different just because I hadn't initially played video games until high school. I took a long break from that. I wasn't playing video games for all through my 20s. It was a little while back when I think I came across Total War on YouTube and I started watching it there. I was watching Heir of Carthage playing Shogun 2, and that was like my little hangover cure. I was watching Total War on YouTube back then, and so I was essentially just a Total War voyeur for a while, and it took me a while before I finally decided to, um, get actually play the game that I learned to love just by watching it, and it's something that I've followed for so long, but something that I never really saw in a lot of I didn't see a lot of representation with Shogun itself. Shogun Total War, of course, being such an old game, wasn't getting a lot of representation on YouTube. So I think I just wanted to be the guy. Be the guy. It's kind of an easy shoes to fill on that one, being the only one. Or essentially, you of course, Bjorn, playing it as well. But just to get 3 campaigns in, and all of a sudden have the most, and it didn't take a lot of work to do that. But yeah, I just wanted to start with Shogun because it's the first one. I thought it'd be easier to start with Shogun and move up into an easier control scheme rather than playing new games and working backwards. I thought that would be awkward. In addition to that, potato of a PC, so running OBS and playing older games works
Yep.
for now. For now it's working. But yeah, it's something that I've just been enjoying the heck out of, and I it's funny because for me, it's the new game is medieval, and I can't wait. I can't wait for. It's funny because like watching, because I am keeping up with all the new stuff. I'm watching, the talking about Rome Remastered and Troy and a future potential Medieval 3, hopefully. And here I am just like psyching up, like, yeah, Medieval 1's dope too, though. Like, I can't wait.
Oh, definitely. I will just point out for listeners, if you are unaware, the original Shogun Total War came out back in the year 2000. This is
Yes.
actually almost over 2 decades old because it was released on June the 13th. Very important day. That's my
June
birthday.
13th, yeah. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Hey,
Sharing it with one of the
nice.
greatest games ever.
Yeah, sweet.
Come on, but we have kind of mentioned there the history of Total War moving on, the control schemes getting easier, the field of view improving, the way you control units has drastically changed over the years. Coming in from what is a traditional game, playing on up, down, left, right on the arrows, do you feel that this still really holds up? Is it still accessible in the modern age?
The short answer of that is no. It takes practice. It does take time to get into it. For me, um, and I don't know if I said this earlier, but not only had I not played video games since I was in high school, but I'd never been a PC gamer ever. So me playing, like, never. I wasn't one of those smart 13-year-olds that could play games on PC. I was a console kid. I was playing Donkey Kong and GoldenEye. That was me. So,
Good choice.
a year ago when I decided I wanted to, yeah, a year ago when I decided I wanted to start this channel, it wasn't just having to like learn how to do OBS and everything. I had to learn how to, use a keyboard and mouse. So for me, it was as awkward as it was ever gonna be. It was already a challenge. For you guys, I don't I don't know really. I don't know if it's, I imagine it'd be really hard, because once you think you already know how to do something, telling your mind how to do it differently is the hard. It's not about learning something new.
Mhm.
It's about learning how to do the same thing but differently.
Yeah.
Because your hand already knows what mouse button to click. And so all of a sudden changing that to something that's a little bit more awkward and a little bit more tedious. For me, something for you, like, for example, is that you talk about how the trees bother you,
I hate
and
trees.
you hate trees. I I don't hate trees. I'm used to them.
Give
I'm
it
used
time.
to. I know. I the trees in Rome looks ridiculous. They just why did they make them that big? But yeah, the forest in Shogun, you have to, you kind of take a deep breath and you work your way around the trees. But still, it's easier for me to say these things for a modern audience. I can't be that. I'm not gonna bluff you. I don't want to be that. I don't want to bluff encouragement. It's gonna be might be a little tricky for sure.
Can remember that. A bit of a warning. Be prepared to relearn the ways. Particularly with the controls, there is options to change controls within Total War games, but old games are notorious for not being that good at actually controlling things.
Mm.
As far as the general history of this game goes, what is your taking from kind of the beginnings, the first ever turn-based strategy meets real-time gaming? Do you think it's had an impact upon the industry?
Yes, absolutely. This is a game that, and I forgot to mention this before. Something that I wanted to teach myself about Shogun Total War, considering that there isn't a lot of, for example, YouTube references on it. I basically just searched through the forums and I dug up like everything. I
Mhm.
don't know if Bjorn is familiar with the org, which is like the original Shogun forum. It's like the original. The org is the domain name for like
I
the original
honestly
Shogun.
don't know. I've got a lot of a lot of the old Total Wars that I used to play. I was kind of too young really to get into that forum side aspect. I
Of
don't think I
course.
was old enough to be let loose upon the
Yeah,
internet.
thank God. But there was for a lot of that. It's interesting because the video game community, the Total War community back then was so polite, and I think that's something that has, for the most part,
Mm,
carried through relatively well. I think that it's kind of like a community of gentlemen and gentlewomen. It's kind of a nice, it's it. The rules for the org is if it's not how you talk to your grandparents, then you can't say it here, which is kind of nice. But anyway, what I was saying is anytime I reference how people felt about the game back then. I'm of course not talking about my own experience, so just as a disclaimer, I'm talking about them. I'm talking about what I've read, and it really has. I read a lot. I really dug through these forums. I mean, I went through every single page. So it's what really struck me is how Shogun, and of course this is before the birth of the franchise. This is just the game itself. They didn't really know if there would be a second one or anything like that.
mm,
And they didn't really know if they would care, if it would be as good. Because to them, Shogun was the crown jewel. It was, of course, the only one. And it captured their imaginations. Bjorn, I mean, the way that these people talk about this game is just really something. Because
yeah,
it's interesting,
definitely.
because it's old, and to us it looks old. But to them, it really brought them into that time period and that setting. And it's a setting that for a lot of people, especially, of course, a lot of Western folks, that we just don't know a lot about. And it's something that sparked an interest. People start, reading about medieval Japanese history because of Shogun Total War. So the first impressions were, of course, really good. And of course, CA thought that they had to do another one, and it's gone from there. And it's done, and I think they've done, of course, a really good job. But it's interesting seeing the opinions of the original Shogun players and how they've changed a little bit throughout the history of the franchise. Because for people that are around, I think you're and I are our age a little bit. We were just a little bit too young. I think maybe we might have played it here or
Hmm.
there for Shogun. I was 13 when it came out, so there's no. I just wasn't that kid that was playing computer
Hmm.
games. I think some 13-year-olds might have played Shogun, like if their like older brother had a copy or something. But a lot of people our age think of the golden era as being Rome and medieval two. And it's interesting reading about the opinions of Rome and medieval
Mm-hmm.
two coming from the Shogun players and the medieval players because it wasn't all good. In fact, it rarely was.
Yes.
Interesting stuff. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I was just gonna jump in. 'Cause it's a little rude to ask someone's age, so obviously I didn't know. So you were 13 when this came out. I was 7.
Yeah.
The
There you
only
go.
thing I
Yeah.
knew about strategy games was build your army big and have fun.
Right.
And
Which
so
works in StarCraft.
totally.
Totally.
But this is actually, I would say, the series that really began to teach me about strategy and how empire building works and the fact that a campaign matters, which is strange because going into the history of this game, originally this was just going to be a battle simulation. There was no campaign planned for
Right.
it. Do you think that decision
Right.
to introduce the campaign was kind of the reason that this game blew up, or could it hold up without that?
There's no way that it would have held up without that because this is the thing that really, really separated it from anything else because anything turn-based already existed and anything that was just RTS already existed. And combining the two formats was what, of course, set Total War completely separate from anything else because it filled the perfect middle ground for those of us who, don't mind reading through menus and don't mind the city planning and the population and the squalor and all that stuff, and maybe actually enjoy it. But at the same time, give us some freaking battles. I mean, come on, like there's some of those Paradox games is just for me, again, I'm just as like a viewer and review reader, it's not my thing. I couldn't do it because I need that spectacle. I need to have something that really brings me into a version of what it may have been like. Now, of course, you and I've talked about how sieges didn't look like that and naval battles didn't look like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm,
sure, whatever. But like, it's still very important to have that combination of elements in this game. And it's interesting because it was an extra thing that they kind of threw in. They were like, oh yeah, it won't be playable with just the battles. And it's bare bones. Sure, the campaign is pretty bare bones, but I think that there's a depth of strategy within the Risk battle system that is it's worthwhile. I think it's very worthwhile learning it, and there's certain things that you can do with it that I think that you can't do as easily with the actual 3D map. Something that I like to do, for example, is I like to do feigned attacks, where I bring an army into a province just to distract that army, and then just click a button and call off the attack. Doing that on the 3D map, can you? I mean, like
you.
you're basically at risk of that army getting caught and killed.
Mhm.
No,
I was
so
gonna
like you may as
say,
well just go through the attack.
so one of the big differences when they brought in that 3D campaign map was really on the 2D board-esque Risk map. You all acted at the same time. You moved and the AI moved on the map, all at the end turn. Whereas bringing to 3D, it's now real time. So when you're moving, it is your turn. You must wait for the enemy to make their turn. Yeah, stuff like feign attacks, at least the way that they were useful, kind of disappeared. Whereas now you have more luring tactics. You had to change the way that you acted upon the battlefield by having smaller armies set up and then an ambushing army waiting to take on the enemy. Which I thoroughly enjoy both, to be honest. But I do think that this Risk
Yeah,
map
yeah.
does have some prominence, something that I think needs to be visited again, which kind of gets me to that point of do you feel this game kind of still has a future now?
Are you hinting at a potential remaster, Bjorn?
I really
I
want
want
this
you
on
to
my
say-
phone. I want it on my phone. I want it remastered. I want to be able to play this while I'm on the
Sure.
bus stop. Keep Rome. Give me
Alright,
Shogun.
Okay, so this is gonna be because I I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I'll go first. This is something, gosh, if you had asked me just 2 months ago what I thought about a remaster, I just would have kind of brushed it off for either game, for Rome or Shogun or anything. In my opinion, the resources should be spent
Mhm.
on future games. Rome has a sequel. It's called Rome 2. And
Yep.
it some people really like it. I'm looking forward to playing it myself. So I would have said no. But then when I found out that it was actually their side studio, the one that works on their mobile games, Feral Interactive, that
Yes,
is
this
doing
is
the remaster.
Feral Interactive is the one who's done the remaster for the iOS and for the computer, whereas CA is
Right.
the original creator of Total War. Just for those to fill
Right.
in.
Yeah, so when I found out that Feral Interactive was the one that was doing this and they weren't going to be taking resources from the main studios themselves, and when I saw the previews, I thought, well, geez, it looks like they're doing actually a really good job with this. And now I am thinking about it. Like, realistically, I think no. But okay, let's just for fun, let's just have a little theory craft about what a remaster for Shogun would look like. Because okay, style game map plays well. I think it does. Oh, is there things that can be added to it? Sure, yeah. There's more depth that can be added to the campaign itself. The Steam version of the game has audio that cuts out in the throne room,
Yeah.
and anytime an anytime an enemy AI clan dies, there's supposed to be a death poem, which is actually supposed to be really cool, but it cuts out as well. The audio for that cuts out. So there is things that could be brought back and made better and new. I'm curious how you think the battle system would be remastered because the pixels were a part of what the game was.
Yes.
The pixels, or I'm sorry, that the sprites for the units in the battle map. How does that get remastered without just completely changing that? Because like certain balance issues of like the strategy
Mhm.
is like built into the fact that there's no like compact collisions for units. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I actually I just wanted to start off by saying you mentioned the death poems. I had completely forgotten that they existed until I was actually trying to record for this. I was trying to record some footage because I
Mhm.
couldn't find a background. I had to go into the game, play a little bit to get it. And I actually heard one. I was amazed. The audio was out of
Yeah.
sync. It came in after the poem had come up. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
in. I was shocked. It's good to
Well,
hear it.
did the entire thing play?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It cuts out. It cuts out, man. It
Does it
does.
like get halfway through and then stop?
Yep. Yep.
That's
Same
fair
same
enough.
thing. Same thing with the throne room audio because you get the
Yes.
diplomats or the Portuguese or whatever. They show up
Mhm.
and they'll say a sentence or two and then it cuts out, which is something that when I'm thinking about a remaster for Shogun, yes, bring that back.
Mhm.
As far as, I mean, definitely keep the videos. Don't touch the agent videos at all. Like, they are
Yes,
perfect
just
as they
upgrade
are.
them. Basically, because Shogun 2 uses a lot of the agent videos. I think they use more or less the exact ones. Yeah, just take those videos and plonk them into the remaster. Perfect.
Put them back. Yeah. But there's a lot with the game that, yeah, I don't know. I mean, what else would you add? I mean, would you add anything to the campaign, or would you literally just like make it look prettier?
Well, I was having a wee thing if you chatted there. The battles I would actually leave as they were, and I would lean
Yeah.
into the sprites, make them look prettier, clean them up, but keep the nature of a sprite unit. There's a lot of modern technology that will let you actually create quite high quality sprites. And I'd
Yeah.
kind of do the same onto the campaign map. I would just it's very unfortunate. It's quite a lot of work as well to actually rebuild every single thing into a new graphics setting because you'd have to completely rebuild this from scratch. But
Yeah.
mechanics wise, this is where I think they could have some fun because you could keep the old system, the risk map, But if you're attacking, rather than being stuck into a single map, so if you're attacking on certain regions, you will be in a bridge battle. It would be nice to have a list, nothing special, just a list, written words, maybe a picture, that you could select the different maps. Because one of the big problems in the old days was disk space. We don't really have that issue anymore. So we could actually upload multiple maps onto the system for each region. And it would be really nice to be able to then pick and select, actually more as the defender, really, which map you end up fighting on.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, that's very interesting. It would be unfortunate in a sense that the attacker would. Well, I mean, the defender could always pick a bridge battle, and we've talked about this before.
Limit the bridge battles would be a big one.
Limit the bridge battles. Yeah, yeah. So for those of you who have never played Shogun Total War, the bridge battles are the worst part about the game, and that's just it's just how it is. There's too many of them. It's something that when CA made Medieval Total War, I think that they did a really good job of limiting them, and not just that, but kind of like switching the importance of a bridge battle so that there's just, you don't have to go there. Japan is too linear, so if there's a river in the way, you have to cross it. You have to, with the diplomatic situation of medieval Europe, there's more leeway. You can kind of work your way around some things, and if I'm not mistaken, the maps, there's a set amount of maps per region, right? And it's random, right? You attack.
There is.
Am I right about that?
When it comes to field battles, yes. When it comes to the map ones, I don't know if I've just been insanely unlucky, but I seem to get the same ones every blooming time.
You are getting the same ones. Okay, I thought that they did a different thing, but maybe that's not.
There is an introduction.
It's different if you're attacking or defending.
Yes, yeah. There's certain things that dictate how they select the maps. I can't remember exactly how many there are.
Because for Shogun, there's 60 provinces, and there's a unique map for every single province, and then there's also a unique map for every single historical battle and custom or historical campaign battle as well. So those are all thrown in there. I think for medieval, it's like 100 and something, or like over that. I can't remember how many provinces. I'm not that familiar with medieval.
I will say one thing. When I'm going the lowball estimates here, how many of those maps pretty much look the same?
I will disagree with you on that one. I think the maps in my opinion, are very well made and rather unique. There are a handful of them that I think follow the same pattern of having hills on either side and then gully or valley in the middle. That's kind of a similar pattern for a couple of those maps, but in general, I will defend those maps until on my grave. I mean, I think they're very well made, and it's something that I think it's way better than the maps that are in Rome. The maps in Rome are bland, and going back to like some of those like complaints that I was talking about that the Shogun players had, that was one of the things. They would load up a map for Rome and think, what is this? It's bland, it's plain, it's boring. Why are trees that big? There's just like
always the trees. That's what it's all about.
But for Shogun, I think that's something that really captured people's imaginations, because I don't know if have you ever played in a heavy rainstorm in Shogun when there's lightning and thunder?
Yes, I love the lightning, and the sound effect is perfect for it.
It blew me away. This is a 20-year-old game that's like graphically like blowing my socks off, in audio too. It's just like, whoa, it was such a wow moment for me. And then something again, reading about Shogun players talk about Rome, and they fought in a thunderstorm, and they were like, it just feels like just a drizzle. It just feels like it's barely raining. You can't really hear any. So it's a different setting, isn't it? It's a different, map quality.
I will say one thing that actually bringing up all this diversity in the game, a lot of it I never saw in campaign. It was actually during, I think it was an Oda Nobunaga campaign that actually has the thunderstorm during a battle. I'd never seen it until then, and it does feel like a lot of the diversity that is in this game, just you have to search for it. You're not really getting it up front.
I completely agree, and that's actually a really good point that I'm glad that you brought up, because it's something that I think that modern Total War players are really spoiled for the amount of variety that's just thrown at them, and it's just thrown at you guys. Like you know when it comes to faction mechanics, and when it comes to geography and different things that you could do, and different variety of build options and stuff. There's just so much that's just that you have to dig into. You have to understand the game. You have to play the game that way. And yes, with Shogun, you could play it the one way that you knew how. You didn't have to relearn. You could just play it the one way. And that's something that, for me personally, it's something that I do to try to make my to make my channel watchable. I try to make my campaigns a little bit different in how I play them, because it's an old game, and because the factions have the same unit roster. It's an old game, so I limit the units that I can play per faction, and I try to do that on a historical role-playing basis, and try to do things where certain factions will use guns, and certain factions will focus on cavalry, certain factions will use warrior monks. Look, if you just want to win, use warrior monks, and you can just play it that way. It's easy.
Yeah.
If you want to find different ways to play the game, you can look for those thunderstorms, because they affect the battles. If you're going in against a bunch of archers against the Yasugi clan because they have a discount on archers, and you're thinking, I don't want to get shot by those, then fight in springtime and click wait on the weather page until you find a rainstorm. And that's how you get these moments where you're using it for the strategy, which of course is how it's intended. But it's not forced upon you. You never have to fight in that rainstorm. It's just kind of
there's options available. Take it if you need it. Here are some strategic considerations. Now you, as the general, make the decision.
Yeah, maybe if they just told players how cool it looked, more people would do it.
just a heads up, guys. There's a really cool way to play this, but we're not going to show you. Find it. Definitely an interesting aspect, and I've got to say, looking at these older games and kind of how they run, it's completely different. To anyone who's played Shogun or Medieval, when they switch to that 3D space, it was good, but for me, it does feel like they kind of should have renamed it. It's now Total War 2 Rome, as in it is a brand new model, it's a brand new engine, it is the TW2 engine. As someone who's primarily watched rather than played, what are you thinking getting ready for this move to 3D?
I'm nothing but excited for. If you were to ask me to pick the game that I'm most excited to play, I don't know what I'd say to you. I don't know how to answer that, because for me, it all looks well done. It really does. As far as the strategy goes, there's going to be a lot to learn, and I think that that's something that it really holds people back when they really get used to playing a certain game, and they're used to being good at it. When they're used to just kicking butt in a multiplayer, whatever, and then it changes, it switches, and all of a sudden you're not on the top anymore. You're not the top dog, because things changed a little bit, and it's challenging you to relearn things, and new players joined in because it's a new game and they found a new game to play. So for me, it's going to be interesting, because right now I'm playing Shogun, and I feel like I really got the hang of it, and I feel like I really know the game. I feel like I can kind of see the AI's moves before they happen, and things are going to be different. I'm going to have to relearn these things. It's going to happen where, I'm going to get caught out for sure. I'm going to have armies just get caught out and destroyed, and I'm going to because in Shogun, if I attack, I can just press that call off attack button. I can just click it.
Yes.
It doesn't take any strategy. I can just click that button and I retreat. The only thing I have to make sure of is make sure that the provinces that I'm retreating to weren't taken in that off turn, because if that happens, that army disappears. So that's the one thing in the risk style games, for those of you who aren't familiar with them, risk board gave you that risk reward was that if you were attacking, you could just click a button and call off that attack. But in that off turn, because the AI always moves after you move, so they get to see what you're doing, and that's why I always attack with more than one army. I always attack multiple provinces at the same time, all the time. I'm blitzing all the time. That way, they can't get around me and take off my retreat. Because if they take those provinces that I'm attacking from, and then I lose that battle, that army's gone. There's nothing, the daimyo, your heirs, your top end units, whatever was in there is now gone. And, you might lose the campaign at that point. But yes, in the new ones, it's going to be fun to relearn this for me.
I will admit, I am actually very much looking forward to seeing you reaching into particularly Medieval 2, a game that, for me, I see more as the real start of Total War. Rome was very good, but I think they kind of realized a lot of the issues they had moving into 3D and switched it, mixed it up. But I'm looking forward to seeing you start playing this just to relive those moments as a kid when I would do exactly as you said. I would just get everything wrong. It took me, I think, 7 years to realize that you could actually ambush things. I didn't even know that existed.
Oh yeah, it took you a while.
Yeah,
because
I
you
wasn't
hate
the
trees,
quickest
Bjorn.
one.
You were avoiding the trees. Even on the campaign map, you were like, "I'm not going to those trees."
I was always worried you'd fighting them.
Yeah.
No, I think it will be a genuine thing of interest as a Total War veteran, watching someone for the first time going into these games that, as you said, I've been playing for years. I know how they work. You understand them. And also, it could be really fun not giving you hints and seeing how you figure this out.
Well, for me, I'm giving myself a head start every time. I'm not going into it blind. I'm always trying to give myself 6 months of prep time before I start recording for that game. So for Shogun, it was an extended prep time because I had to relearn like how to use a keyboard. It's like, oh god, it's too many buttons. But going forward, it's gonna I'll play Medieval for probably a year before I start recording it, just because I don't want to be that. I don't want to fumble around. I know there's other channels for that. I think it is super watchable if you have the personality for it. I think that it can be really fun to watch people just kind of explore a new game. I mean, heck, that's what people do with the advanced builds or pre-builds and stuff like that. It's just people exploring a new, what's this? Reading menus and stuff. Yeah, it's fun, but this is an old game. I want to play something that I want to be able to teach if I can. Show people how it can be played. For example, like with Shogun, finding out that the real best way to have an economy was by accepting the Portuguese and turning it into Christianity and having all the Portuguese trading posts. It's something that when you talk to Shogun players, a lot of them, will say, no, Christianity is bad because, you can't use warrior monks. No. Doesn't matter. Best economy is through the Portuguese. That's how it runs. And it's things like that that I like.
To be fair, your playthrough, for those who haven't seen it, please do check out, particularly towards the end, for the simple reason I have never seen more agents on a campaign map in my life.
Yeah, when you're going Christian, you need a lot of those shinobi to help you keep the people happy. But that's,
Happy.
that's just how that happy. I love being spied on. That's something that I like to. I like teaching and showing people that kind of stuff. It's like with Medieval, learning, and all of a sudden you have to like build trade routes. Like holy crap, like that's how you have to do it. Trying to make money just by building farms ain't gonna cut it. So I like to show that.
Yeah, there was a big change to the economy when they switched over, trading actually being the main part, whereas farmland being, particularly on fertile land, the main part of the old ones. But I do have a question, because this game is, it's going to be 21 years old coming up soon.
Yeah.
Do you think there is a risk of this game ever being dropped from compatibility?
Oh god, don't break my heart, Bjorn. I mean, that right there all of a sudden becomes the best argument for a remaster being made.
Exactly.
You know? Because yes, yes, there is. There's a risk of that happening. I would like to think and hope that if anything, if I can accomplish anything with my channel in the early years, because it's not, I don't think I'll be getting a lot of viewers per se for Shogun and Medieval, and I get it, I understand, but I hope that I can preserve this game in a sense, kind of like my channel becomes the Shogun Museum or you know, whatever, and
No, definitely.
and yeah, and potentially if I can, you know, garner more interest in the game itself, and maybe start a movement or something. I don't know. I don't know if I'm capable of that, but if that's something that people are interested in, if like the people loved the multiplayer for this game back then. It's what really kept it going. People loved playing the Shogun multiplayer.
It was a
Yeah, the
seriously
campaign was fun and
balanced
all,
game.
but it is, yeah, and they were super competitive. I mean, again, just reading through the forums, I mean, they really knew what they were doing. I want to play against them just because I want to test myself. I want to know like how my
see how many
goes
seconds
up
can
against
you
theirs.
last?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like a survival mode. Like, see, it's just like see how long I can last against that. But that's actually, oh yeah, that's something I forgot to mention about the remaster. Is that if with the remaster, if they could make multiplayer supported again, then then I want it. Then I want multiplayer. Then I want a remaster for Shogun, just because I think it's worth playing. I think it's a challenging game, and it's something that's challenging. Speaking as someone who's familiar with the controls, even for someone, you know, knows what they're doing with it. So it's not just challenging because it's unfamiliar for newer Total War players. I think it's even
hard.
challenging just because, the AI is tricky. They're tricky. I think that the AI in Rome, for one thing, the army starts right next to yours, so you don't have to find them.
Yes,
You know,
it was actually quite interesting. It was a few years ago. Legend of Total War actually did a Takeda campaign going back to this, and even he was saying, you know, I was brought up in the day of Total War when the AI, they challenged you, they tricked you, they would set ambushes, and they did them well. Whereas nowadays, I don't really know what it is. I don't know if it's the change in the map or if it's a change in the actual AI behavior, but they are very predictable now and quite easy to control.
Yeah, I think so. I know that CA did program the AI. They basically understood the art of war by Sun Tzu. You know, they knew how to. They played that way. So when you are fighting on a river battle and you're crossing the bridge, they wait until you're across that bridge before they close in on you, because that's literally in the book. He says, "Wait for the army to be halfway across before you attack."
Yes.
If you meet them on the river banks, then you're not going to cause any casualties. You want to cut the army in half, and that's why the AI does that. And when you watch when you watch the AI's behavior in other ways, you know, you see them scout, you see them probe, you see them search, and you see them fall back. You see them fall back, and it's something that we talked about a little bit in the comment section for one of your videos. We're talking about the AI. And it's something that I think is really interesting, because an AI that is that interesting does play on your patience as a player, and it plays kind of mind games with you. It plays little psychological mind games. And here's what I'm not too here's what I don't know about this. Here's the thing. It's funny because people all say that they want a good AI. Do you want an AI that can really?
Yeah.
Do you really do you really want to search the map for them? Do you really want to have to find them?
It is always a challenge in gaming, the gaming industry in general, trying to give the fantasy that people want. We want to be the general. We want to fight. But you don't want it to be too easy, because then, you know, there's no challenge, there's no fun. And
Right.
yeah, I must admit, I always do look at comments on AI behavior, and I just think you realize the AI has no restrictions on micromanagement. They are always going to defeat you on that. And if you're
Right.
looking for better AI behavior, it's typically going to come down to who can micro the fastest, who can control the battlefield.
Right.
Humans are not going to win. And it would be fun
Yeah.
to play against a hard AI, but you are going to lose and you're never going to complete the campaign.
Well, yeah, and that's just on a micro level. There's even the macro level of just like the psychology of it all. You know, they can wait forever. They can wait forever,
Not on a
and
time
they
limit, they
don't.
can't. Wahaha.
Yeah, so of course, and that's why I actually play on a time limit because
Yeah.
stick it to the AI. But the thing is that it can be a little frustrating when you outflank them and they just simply fall back and regroup, and you're thinking, oh, so I have to do that again. So what and that takes a lot of work, Bjorn, because that's
Mhm.
when I'm talking outflanking, I'm talking about climbing on the side of the mountain, face
Yes.
them, so that I'm on even ground. And so that's the work that it takes to really keep going around them and around them, and it's a lot of patience to do this, and especially when they keep falling back, and especially when they might run the timeout on you, and you're thinking,
Mhm.
oh, come on, like so. Yeah, it's a challenge, and sometimes that goes against you, where you're thinking, okay, to catch them in battle. And it's funny, if you've read anything about a history, you see this in historical battles when the
Mhm.
attacking general gets frustrated and they rush into an attack that they get cut up and ambushed and all that stuff. And it happens
Mhm.
all the time. And it happens to me playing the game against the AI, where I'm like, oh, I see them, I got them, and I'm rushing to them, and to my flank is a forest where, lo and behold, they've hit a unit. And now they're attacking my flank, and now my entire army is running away. And that happens in Shogun, which, yes, I do enjoy in sort of a masochistic way, but do I understand why they switched to sort of a front on engagement?
Mhm.
Totally. I totally get it. The way that when you break an army in Rome, it's
Mhm.
actually broken and you can just focus on, killing the
Yeah.
routers. In Shogun, you're not sure if they're really broken. So if you just click attack for your light scout cav and just assume that they're going to do all the work for you, those spears are going to regroup and cut your scout cav to pieces,
I
or your
cannot
heavy
count
cav,
how many
whatever.
times that has happened. Yeah, like chasing
Yeah,
down some
right.
Yari samurai, and then they just
Yeah,
suddenly they're back. Oh wait, oh my god, my general's dead.
right. Yeah, or even Yoriyashigaru, because in Shogun Total War, the peasant unit is equipped with a spear. So it actually has a really
Mhm.
formidable bonus against cavalry, even heavy cav. And watching, because cavalry have a debuff in forests,
Mhm.
and then they catch it, Yashigaru, who is regrouped in the forest. Watch your expensive heavy cav get cut down by a unit that costs 100 koku. And yeah, that can be super frustrating. But, that's the give and take to it. So I just want to, I guess the moral of the story is I get why they've moved away from that totally.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of a be careful of what you wish for kind of thing. Like, come on, guys, let's like
I'm
be
just
real.
waiting
Like,
for
you don't
the it's
really want
back.
to play
Deal
that.
with it.
Yeah, I know. Like, imagine if that's how like Medieval 3 played. It's like,
I would kind of love that. I'd just bring out a separate mode and do it like Iron Man, so you have achievements for it, and it's just called "Come Get
or-
Some."
yeah, if you want to play a legendary, make it really hard for yourself campaign, go for it.
God, I'm glad we've got on to the note of battles and the historical battles, real life, because as someone who's very interested in Japanese history and history in general, do you feel the depiction in Shogun Total War is maybe not realistic, but at least hinting at realism within the game?
I really do. I think there's something about the mess of the sprites that
Hmm.
kind of brings out. It's interesting. It's kind of like when the formations kind of break down and you kind of get the blobs and stuff, and that looks more like battle. It's kind of chaos. It's kind of messy. It's kind of, oh my god, what's happening? And I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, you don't really have the collisions. The charge bonuses for the units don't work very well because the collisions between the sprites don't
Yeah.
really work. That's why the heavy cav actually ends up being outperformed by the Naginata cav that was brought in with the Mongol Invasion DLC. The Naginata cav actually ends up being better. It's cheaper and it's kind of broken in a way, but that's
Mhm.
because the charge bonus for the heavy cav doesn't work. So there's things that like that could be fixed, but overall, great. Again, putting myself 20 years ago and trying to like see that game in the eyes of what they were. Yeah, I was just saying how I think the atmosphere for the battles in Shogun are they really nailed it. I think there's moments where fog and the sky the skies in Shogun are relatively, I think, more dark than the skies in medieval. In medieval, a lot of times you just get like nice bright days,
Yeah,
and I
I
don't
kind
know
of
if you
get
have
you.
the overcast as often.
I
And I could
I
be
think
wrong.
it often comes down to sort of where you're fighting with Japan.
Sure.
You're only really on three islands of Japan: Honshu, Kyushu, and
Yeah.
Shikoku.
Mm.
There is definitely a weather difference. You know, I'm living over in Saitama,
Mm.
and often it is cloudy. And then I'll talk to students, and they're telling me, "Oh no, it's bright and sunny here in Okinawa."
Okay.
Uh,
Mm.
actually, one was telling me it was snowing recently over in Sapporo, which was quite an interesting run. Well, whereas
Yeah.
in Europe medieval, you know, your massive expanse of land, if you
Of
go into
course.
England, it's going to be cloudy, but if you're down in sunny old Italy, you're fine.
Yeah, and that's something that I know that they do have the weather in the game. I feel like in Shogun, yeah, I feel like they have the overcast a lot more, and of course that makes sense, but I think that works because it kind of adds like a gloomy, moody kind of a setting and atmosphere to the game. But when the sun does shine, it's kind of a moment, isn't it? It's like, oh,
Mhm.
it looks bright and it feels nice, you know. Whereas when you're fighting in the desert in medieval Total War, it's like, all right, it's sunny every day. My troops are
Yeah.
boiling alive in their armor, and I can't and I can't move anyone.
But which I do actually like. They had that reaction in the game in medieval that if you're in the
Absolutely,
sun,
yeah.
your knights are going to fatigue more because they're getting hot. But I'm very sorry. Like all I can think right now is when you were mentioning the skyline is the
Right, yeah. I think
it's the polygon. I don't even know what to call it. It's basically a line. They just made a line, and that's a bird. If they ever did a remaster, we need those birds back in. I love them.
I think that they need to be back. Did you know that fun fact about birds, in Shogun Total War, the birds signify whether or not there is enemy in the forests. That's actually in the game because that was
Interesting.
in
So the
Art of
birds
War.
fly up, then you know there's units over there?
Yeah, right. When you're looking at the map and you're looking at like, is the AI in that forest or are they in that forest? Look for
Mhm.
the birds. That's where they are. It's some Jason Bourne stuff, man. It's cool. Like,
I never
look
knew
for the
that.
birds. And I have to imagine that's in every other game, and we just never like pay attention to that.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna
no,
have to
because
have
they
a
don't
look
even
for
like
that.
hide in the
Mhm.
other games. Yeah, except they don't really hide. So
Yeah, they do hide if they spawn in a forest. As in literally that's
right
their
in the
deployment
forest.
zone.
Yeah.
Um
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it might be. I do have a feeling like in Shogun 2 I've seen birds fly out when soldiers have been there. But I've never really looked for it. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
That was cool.
on
20,
the
20-year-old
note of
game.
interesting stuff, we have reached the end. We've been chatting for quite a while. It's been awesome. And
Yeah.
it's been lovely to have you on, Khan. And I just want to know, coming up soon on your channel, what do we have to look forward to?
Yeah, so Bjorn, right now I'm just plugging away at my Oda campaign. I'm about halfway through, and it's going. For those of you who don't know, the Oda campaign is actually the hardest
Very hard.
campaign in Shogun. So yeah, check if you want to see some really cool stuff in Shogun Total War. I'm working on my Oda campaign, and I'm also playing the historical battles as well. Coming up will be an Imagawa campaign, and that's it for now. Right now, I'm just kind of doing, the Let's Plays and the historical battles, And I'm, at some point in the future, I might open it up and start doing faction guides and what have you. And that's something that will have to come once I'm done with the historical battles. But I'm looking
Faction
forward
guides
to
for a 21-year-old game. Perfect.
it. I know. But I think it's fun to do.
No, go where your heart is. I was just thinking with Imagawa as well. Get ready for some bridge battles. If you want to see what they're actually like, they are in the historical battles for Shogun Total War.
Yeah.
But it's been lovely having you on, and it's been great chatting, great talking about a classic game. Till next time, guys and girls. Peace out.
Thanks, Bone.